OCM Siaya. We'd like to welcome you to Idle No More Education Forum here at Trinity Western University. Hello everyone, loved ones, leaders, all of our ancestors. My name is Wenona. I also carry the name Quiquistong for the Stalo people, and I'll talk about that a little bit. And I am from the Siwak tribe, which is one of about 14 different tribes belonging to the upriver Halkomelem speaking people. And I want to also thank Aunt Patty, for inviting us here today. It's a pleasure to come and be a part of your teaching for Idle No More. I want to thank the panelists. It's very difficult to speak. One of the things, I'll say this right off the get-go, that I appreciate the most, I think, out of the Idle No More movement is what it is doing for me as a person, as a human being. I can honestly tell you that I went through, was it 14 years of school altogether of post-secondary? And this is the first time, and I'm done now, there'll be no more schooling for me, but it's now the Idle No More movement where I'm actually getting to go to lecture halls and sit in classrooms and listen to the Indigenous voice. And it makes me sad because I wish I had had that experience as you're having it as an undergraduate or as a graduate, or, as part of your school experience. I never did have that. It wasn't something that was brought into the universities while I was going. It was sort of something that was left, marginalized and on the edge, and wasn't necessarily something that we did out in the open, such as this. So that part of the Idle No More movement, I'm having a huge appreciation for, and I can't help but just listen to what's being shared and everything that I'm hearing, and feel very humbled. I feel extremely humbled because what the movement has been doing and is doing is opening up and awakening a group of people, I think, that have been waiting for that opportunity, waiting for that chance, to speak and to be heard and to have that voice and do it from the heart. And everywhere where I go, no matter what form of activism that we're doing in relation to Idle No More, whether it's singing in the malls, whether it's participating in a round dance, even though we're Stalo, which we have done in solidarity with our brothers and sisters from back east, attending teach-ins, listening, watching CPAC. I'm with ya. I'm just as nerdy. I have been caught at times at 2 o'clock in the morning watching CPAC. Paying attention to Facebook, the social media, paying attention to Twitter, and becoming more educated in those areas and what the meaning or what's important to people, however they care to express it, I think has been one of the most beautiful things about the Idle No More movement. And I think it's also why the movement won't be going anywhere. It is what I've mentioned, what I refer to as sustainable, because of the messages coming from the heart, and the heart will always be here. The heart is never going to go anywhere. And as we've heard from the speakers before, especially for the Indigenous peoples who have been living here for thousands and thousands of years, we have a sustainability. We have survived floods, we've survived volcanoes, we've survived famines, And we are definitely going to survive this little bit of colonialism that has been happening to us over the last, in this territory, in the last 150 years. So we do have, in terms of governance, we do have a way of being in this land and in this territory. And part of what we talked a little bit about yesterday as well at another teaching was, you know, if you're going to live in the territory of a people, you really should learn their ways. You should learn their laws, their principles, their way of being, because there's genius in that. There's a way of living and a way of being that will mean, that will make sure that we as a human species survive for hopefully, you know, another 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 years. Although I do agree, if we do keep going on this path, that people such as Harper, and he's not acting alone, I know he's the target because he is the Prime Minister, but if we keep going along that path, it is not sustainable. There will be nothing left, and we will as a species no longer exist, you know, as human beings. But if we go back to, and I don't mean back to say that in a way that it's something, you know, some romantic long ago past that we can no longer achieve anymore. That's not the case. What I'm talking about is learning a new way of being, and I think Ernie touched on that when he spoke about how we relate to all of our ancestors that we find existing around us. You know, do we relate to what we have around us as equals? And if we do that, then you do find a way of being that's sustainable. And those laws, sorry, I've got so many things going through my brain, and I realize I have 10 minutes, so I'm trying to keep it short. I do have a 330-page dissertation that you're welcome to read. It's available online at SFU. So if I completely botch this, you can refer back to that lovely document, and it will help make sense of what I'm trying to say. Through my research, in terms of governance and the Stalo, I did find, and I was very fortunate to come across a lot of laws, a lot of ways of being, a lot of principles that make sense today, even more so today when we see what's going on. So, and those laws are available to us, and I think as a people, if we're going to live in this territory, we have that responsibility to learn what those laws are, and we'll learn them through the Indigenous peoples of this land. I like how my Auntie Amy, our Auntie Amy puts it. And I will say this too. I'm very rough on this is my husband. Did that come out yet? I'm married to Ernie Victor, and Patty is married to his uncle. And one of my favorite aunties in the whole world is Auntie Amy. And so I've always said that there's one thing about the Victor men is they know how to pick good women. So when, what was I talking about?
Auntie Amy said something.
Oh, thank you, Carrie. I wasn't talking about Ernie, I was talking about Auntie Amy. Auntie Amy said to us one time, was because I got into a very angry place. When I started learning about the impacts of colonization and what it had done to our people, the residential schools, the Indian Act, the reserve system, the status system, the registration system, the outlawing of our culture and our way of being, you know, having our young men walking down the road with a drum and being thrown in Ocala for 6 months. When I started reading and learning of this stuff, I became very angry. And I wasn't sure what to do with all of that anger. I tried a variety of different ways to try to be rid of it, but it wouldn't leave. And I remember one day listening to Auntie Amy speak, and what she said, she goes, we need to have some pity for the people who came here. Think about what they were running from. They got on those boats and they came all this way, not even knowing if they were going to make it. Because back then, those boats weren't as safe as what we have today. And they took that journey because they were leaving something, so desperately wanting to leave something, to come to something new. And when she said that to me, I felt a little bit of pity. I felt a little bit of, wow, that your life would be so terrible that you would need to get in a boat and not even know if you're going to survive the journey, to go live somewhere else in somebody else's land. And then the second thing she said after she said that is, But we also need to be careful, because if we get in those boats, and they came all the way over here and they're running for something, don't recreate what you were running from. Right? And then that got me really thinking, right. And then I found a place to put my anger. I found a place to put my anger, and a place of making sure that there is a teacher in me. Somebody who says, because I come from both worlds. I come from the Stalo people, whose ancestry goes back thousands and thousands of years. I've traced my ancestry back to the very first man of the Siouxsie people. But my mother is a settler. Her people came from England, France, Germany, and Scotland. She's quite the mixture, and her family came over here, I don't even know, 4 or 5 generations ago. But they're still settlers, right? So I come from both of that, and because of that, I think it gives me a good place to be about teaching and educating people on the laws and the ways that we can live in harmony with this territory and with this land. And that, in fact, is a large part of the name that I carry for the Stalo people, Quiquilstom. It has to do with justice according to the Stalo worldview and according to the Stalo way of being. We don't really have a word in our language that means justice, but in that English sense. But our word is Quiquilstom, Qualante, which means they are teaching you, they are moving you toward the good. And you know, same, I hear what Carrie's saying, sometimes it would be nice to have, I would love to have that stands with fist name. Instead I have this, they are teaching you, they are moving you towards the good. Well, what is that exactly? Who's teaching whom, and where are we moving, and where's the good? But that's the beauty in the name. As soon as I have those questions and have those thoughts, then it comes to me. And so now I'm kind of been known as the Queen of Conflict, which at first used to offend me. But now I take it as a compliment, right? Because we do need to change things. The way things are going is not working for us. It's not working for Indigenous peoples. Some of the statistics that we heard from the first speaker, right? Some of our own people are living in third world conditions, right? So status quo, what's happening is not working for us, but not just for Indigenous peoples, because you can't do to one without also doing to yourself, right? That's, I think, a universal human law that we can all follow. So we're all suffering from the way things are. So we need conflict for change, and that's why I think conflict is a good thing. And then where my name in the teachings, and I'm lucky to have people like Auntie Amy and a few other elders who have taken me under their wing to help me with this name, and to teach me how to do things, how to resolve conflict in a good way. Because there were times where, you know, I'd be in meetings or be in forums and trying to talk and trying to educate, and like my husband or my brother would literally have to hold me back, because I would, somebody said, I would just be like, oh, I'm just gonna go punch that person in the face. And they could see it in me, they could see, like, she's gonna get violent. We either get her out of here or somebody tie her down, right? And I know, my mind knows that violence isn't gonna solve anything, right? That's just gonna cut the conversation short. So resolving conflict in a good way, and how do we do that? That is sort of my teachings that I have for the rest of my life. This is the journey, this is the path that I'm on. And I'm doing it very carefully, I'm doing it very slowly. I know there are times where people wish I would speak a little bit more forceful or a little bit more assertive, or just really just say it like it is and quit trying to be so polite and just, you know, put it out there. And yeah, there's a time and place for that, but we're not there yet. We're still helping the settlers make that shift, right? And if we push too hard, they won't make the shift, and then we're all gonna lose, because it's gonna take all of us to make the shift. It's gonna take every single one of us that now call South Tumuk home, this territory, this unceded territory that we live on. It's gonna take every single one of us to change things around. And it can be as simple as a teaching that came out yesterday from Carrie Lynn. Don't take without giving back. It can be that simple, right? If you take something, give something back to keep the balance. It can be as simple as, oh, I'm so happy for this. My husband is now turning lights off in the house, right? He doesn't leave all the lights on throughout the whole, the whole house, which, hope you don't mind me sharing that he used to leave all the lights on. And since this I Don't Know More, since becoming more conscious, more aware, the lights are getting shut off now. It can be that simple, not leaving water running while you're brushing your teeth. All these tiny, what we think are tiny little things do make a difference, and we need to believe that we make a difference. Every time we don't use a styrofoam plate, we make a difference, right? And all those little things that we do all add up and will create change. So I really want to encourage people to do that. And lastly, what I want to make sure to share about the I Don't Know More movement is I just completed my doctorate degree. I defended November 1st. It was a huge undertaking. It took me and my family, because it was a collective endeavor, 7 years to complete this PhD, and it was not an easy journey. There were many, many, many times I wanted to quit. There were many, many times I was a blubbering mess on the floor, bawling my eyes out. Why am I doing this? What is this? This is changing me too much. I don't want to do this. And literally, thankfully, my husband's a big guy, would be able to come along, pick me up, plunk me in front of my computer. Right. We didn't come this far for you to quit now. You're going to finish. You're going to write what you need to write, and we're going to complete this, because we don't quit what we start. And he did that for me at least 3 times, and I did manage to complete. I defended November 1st. And not too long after that, a lot of the I Don't Know More stuff started happening. And even though I was exhausted and tired from the dissertation, something about the I Don't Know More movement rejuvenated me. Something about it gave me energy and made me want to get up and continue doing what I'm doing. It's not just the movements in the mall, but that was huge, because I'm sorry, I'm aware of where I am, but I hate Christmas, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but I know what it's the consumerism, the commercialization, which I think everybody probably agrees with about the Christmas, that I just don't like. We're just shopping and shopping and shopping. So to go to the malls, to drum and to sing, and it's the first time ever that I went to a mall and left there with more energy than what I went with, for the first time ever. And I wasn't alone in that, because one of the things I made sure to do, you know, the researcher in me, was to stand back and watch the crowd. You know, and I took pictures and I made videos, and I watched the crowd. And watching the people's faces, all people's faces, no matter red, yellow, black, orange, purple, all the faces had that same look, that inspired, that inquisitive, that there's something beautiful going on here, right? And we were all a part of that, in that collectivity, in a mall, Like, I just couldn't believe it. It was one of the most beautiful things I've ever experienced. And I put together, I'm a little biased, I think one of the best I Don't Know More videos. It's a short little 7-minute stint. I'm working on it. I'm fine-tuning it, because you know, I'm an academic, not a video producer. But it is one of the best videos that I've seen. But I'm capturing the looks of the people's faces, right? And I'm capturing songs that are being sung that are inspiring people. And above all, I captured young people with drums, little 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds drumming, you know, in the mall. My son, 8 years old, drumming in public for the first time for an I Don't Know More movement. And our first speaker talked about historical trauma. We all, Indigenous people, carry some of that trauma. To bring a drum out in public, right? Even saying it, I feel it, right? Because we were persecuted for doing that not too long ago. So to see my young son sitting on his dad's shoulders, drumming in public with no fear whatsoever. He's just, where's the lead drummer, right? Who should I follow? Because there's so many drummers going on. And that was also the beauty of it too, the collectivity of what you see going on there. That is an example of governance, okay? Governance isn't sitting in the Parliament buildings. You know, governance isn't writing to Prime Minister Harper, right? Governance is by being responsible for yourself as an individual, and how you give expression to yourself, and how you move in this world. That's governance, and that's self-determination. And even while we're living under a colonial regime, we can give expression to self-determination. by standing up, by singing, by being a part of the Idle No More movement, whatever that may look like to you. It might be attending the flash mobs, it might be attending teach-ins, it might be writing an article, it might be singing a song, right? It might be making a video. It might be watching CPAC at 2 o'clock in the morning, right? There's something for everybody in this movement, and there's no excuse. All the excuses are gone. It's no longer against the law, people. We can speak, we can talk, we can drum, and we can sing. And I say, woo! To that.